What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're getting into another edition of the Bracketology. Today is the February 23rd edition. Some crazy games, honestly, this weekend, so let's dive right into this here. Starting out with the Bracket Watch, as you see, it was short-lived for UConn's number one overall seed. It's back to Purdue, so that means the gap wasn't large when Purdue lost to Ohio State. I'm thinking that UConn, if that game was more competitive against Creighton, they probably should have stayed here. But I can see why Joe Lendardi's given it back to Purdue. But I think that's neck and neck. Those two teams are right on it for that number one overall seed right now. And then the first team out, we do have Wake Forest right there. Last team in, Texas A&M losing this week to Arkansas. Tough loss against an Arkansas team who's been very bad this season. Or not bad, but inconsistent. But yeah, let's look at the bubble here. Last four byes, we do have Northwestern, Nebraska, Virginia, and then Nevada. Last for him, we have Seton Hall, Providence, Gonzaga, and then Texas A&M. First for out, we do have Wake Forest, Ole Miss losing to Mississippi State. That does knock them out of the bubble or of the in. And then we have Utah and Butler. Then the next for out, Villanova, very solid Drake team right there. Cincinnati, and then Colorado trying to climb back up. If we look at this bracket, though, starting out with the first four, we do have South Dakota State new to the field as a 16 seed. Providence is going to be new to the field as a 12, and then Texas A&M falls to the play-in. So in the Midwest region, it is now Purdue as the number one. Let's get this straight. Purdue as the number one overall seed right there. New Mexico, I believe this is jumping up, not dropping down. What a crazy game versus Colorado State. If you watch that game, New Mexico barely pulled that one off. Very, very crazy game. It was baskets after baskets. Seemed like one of the team would pull off, the other team would score. So New Mexico did win that one. They're a good team. And then we have Baylor falling to a 4 seed. They took a tough loss to my BYU Cougars over the weekend. Then we have Washington State last night upsetting Arizona. Another crazy game right there. Good Washington State team. And then we have Northwestern falling to the 10 and Morehead State. I believe they're still a 15 last time, but dropping down to a 15. In the East region, we do have UConn as that number one seed. Texas Tech's going to be jumping up to the 5 seed. Another crazy game versus this TCU team where they won that one on the road. Then we have Kentucky blowing like a 15-point lead to LSU. They're falling to a 6 seed, man. Weird Kentucky team right now. They really have one of the best players in the country, one of the best guards. Forgot his name, but other than him, man, it's just a weird team. And then jumping up to the 10 seed is Nevada right there. In the South region, we do have Houston as that number one seed. Utah State's going to be falling to an 8 seed, even though I do believe they beat San Diego State. Correct me if I'm wrong there. But then we have Mississippi State jumping up to the 9 seed. We have Virginia falling to the 10 seed. And then finishing it off in the West region, we have Arizona as that number one seed. And then Creighton, as we mentioned, beating UConn. They're jumping up to the 3 seed right there. Also Richmond, new to the field as a 12. Okay, but let's get into this bracket here. Starting out with the first 4 games, we do have Seton Hall pulling off the win over Gonzaga, and that's a good matchup, but I'm going to go with Seton Hall. Then I'm going to go with Norfolk State to beat Merrimack. Providence, Texas A&M, really good battle here. I do think I'm going to go with Texas A&M. I still believe in that team for them to pull off the win. They're an inconsistent team, but I think they could get the better of Providence. And then South Dakota State, Grambling State. I am going to give that one to South Dakota State. All right, for a spot in the round of 32, the number one overall seed, I think, gets past the first round there and beats Norfolk State. I am going to go with the slight 9/8 there with New Mexico beating Oklahoma. And then I'm going to go with McNeese State to pull off the upset over Dayton. Dayton, I still like the team. They did just lose to George Mason, but McNeese State, man, they're a really good team. I believe their coach is like the former LSU coach or something like that, leading this team here. Give me McNeese State to win that one. This has been their best year in their program history. But then Baylor, UC Irvine. I do like UC Irvine, but I do have to go with Baylor in that game. St. Mary's, Indiana State, very similar. Like Indiana State, but I am going to go with St. Mary's in that game. And then give me Alabama to beat High Point. Washington State, I think, will hold off Northwestern. And then Morehead State, I think, pulls off the 15-2 upset. Now, in the real tournament, I probably wouldn't do this, but why not have some fun? I said it last time in my bracketology. Morehead State's a good college basketball program here. They could be due for a win. Marquette's a team that, if any of the 2 seeds I think are going to lose in the first round, I think it could be Marquette. So I'm going to go with Morehead State to pull off the win. It's just one of those gut feeling picks. Why not have some fun in the bracketology? Give me Morehead State pulling off the upset. And then over here, Arizona, I think, would beat South Dakota State. Texas, Boise State, 8 versus a 9 seed. That one's a weird one. Give me the Longhorns, though, just barely. Wisconsin, Richmond, not a fan of Wisconsin, but I do think they would be able to beat Richmond there. Then I do have Auburn beating Appalachian State. BYU, I think, would hold off Seton Hall. Creighton, I think, would beat Charleston. Florida, really good Florida team. They had a really good game versus Alabama. I think they would hold off Nebraska. Spelled Nebraska wrong there, but too late to change it. And then give me Kansas to beat Eastern Washington. All right. Moving on here, UConn, I think, would beat Eastern Kentucky. Give me TCU to pull off the win over Florida Atlantic. Texas Tech, I think, would hold off Samford, as well as San Diego State. Could be an upset with 13 seed Yale. I believe I did that upset when San Diego State was a 5 seed and Yale went to the Sweet 16, but I do think I would go with San Diego State. And then give me Grand Canyon to pull off the win over Kentucky. Again, I'm just not a believer in Kentucky at this point. I'm a believer in Grand Canyon if you've watched my channel. So give me Grand Canyon. Moving on. And then we do have Iowa State beating Oakland. South Carolina, I think, would be able to beat Nevada. And then give me North Carolina to beat Colgate. All right. Final region, Houston, Sam Houston. Give me Houston. Utah State, Mississippi State. Battle of 2 Aggie schools. I think I'm going to go with the 8-seeded Utah State, though. Clemson, Texas A&M. Give me Clemson, but that could be an upset. And then Illinois, I do think, would be Akron. Then I'm going to go with the 11/6. I kind of feel like I've been disrespecting Colorado State. Don't get me wrong, they're a good team, but geez, this South Florida team has been dominating the American Conference. I'm a believer in this team, so I am going to go with South Florida in the upset. And then I do have Duke beating Vermont in that game. Michigan State, Virginia, 10-7. I do have Michigan State winning, and then Tennessee, I think, would be Quinnipiac. All right. For a spot in the Sweet 16, Purdue, New Mexico. Could be an upset from Purdue, but I am going with New Mexico. And then give me Baylor against McNeese State. That could be a 12-seed win, but I do still believe in that Baylor team. St. Mary's, Alabama. I'm going to go with the 6/3 upset here. Why not go with St. Mary's, a good team out of the West Coast Conference. Alabama, don't get me wrong, also a really good team, but I am going to go with St. Mary's in the win. And then give me Washington State to pull off the win over Morehead State. And then in this region, Arizona, Texas, 1 versus an 8. Give me, that could be an upset, but I am going to give my belief in Arizona in that game. Auburn, I think, would beat Wisconsin. BYU, Creighton, as much as I want to go with BYU, I think we could win this game if Creighton's off, but I do have to go with Creighton. And then Kansas, Florida. Florida's a good team, but I do have the 2-seeded Jayhawks winning that one. All right, UConn, TCU, 1 versus an 8. Give me, or 9. Give me UConn. Texas Tech, San Diego State. Tight battle. I'm going to go with the 5-seeded Texas Tech, though, to move on past San Diego State. Then Iowa State, I think, would pull off the win over Grand Canyon. Then I'm going to go with another upset, the South Carolina team pulling off the win over North Carolina. Big believer in South Carolina. I know they've had a past couple bad losses. Still a big-time good team there. Really good scoring team. I think they could get the better of their Northern Carolina team. Give me South Carolina in the upset. And then Houston, Utah State. Give me Houston. Clemson, Illinois. I am going to go with the 4-seeded Illinois. Although Illinois, weird team. They did just lose to Penn State. Actually, I'm going to flip this up. I'm going to go with Clemson. I just don't trust Illinois' late game ability to finish off these games. We saw it against Penn State. We've seen it a lot of times as well this season. They just struggle to finish off games, it seems like. And it came back to bite them against Penn State. And then we have South Florida, Duke. As much as I want to go with South Florida, I do have to go with Duke in that game. And then Tennessee, I think, would beat Michigan State. Okay, Purdue, Baylor. Give me Purdue in the win. That's a good one, though. Could see Baylor. And then St. Mary's, Washington State. 6 versus a 7. I'm going to go with Washington State. Out of the Pac-12, they're playing really good basketball, dominant in the Pac-12 right now. I could see them going a run here if they get these right types of matchups. Why not go with Washington State to the Elite Eight? And then Arizona, Auburn. I'm going to go with the 4/1 here. Give me Auburn to move on to the Elite Eight, where they will meet Kansas, Creighton. That's a good matchup. I'm going to go with... that one's tough. I'm going to go with Creighton, though. They're playing great basketball. They just proved it against a top team in the country, arguably the best team in the country in UConn. Give me Creighton in the win, but that's a good one. That could be an instant classic type Sweet 16 game. But then we have UConn, Texas Tech, 1 versus a 4. I do have Connecticut pulling off the win. Iowa State, South Carolina. I am going to have to go with the 3-seeded Iowa State to beat South Carolina. So, finishing it off in the final region down here, we have Houston, Clemson, 1 versus a 5. I do have Houston, the Cougars, moving on. And then Tennessee, Duke. Great matchup. Rematch of last year's round of 32, 5 versus 4 matchup. But I do have Tennessee beating Duke to advance on. All right. Purdue, Washington State. I do think Washington State's run will come to an end versus the Boilermakers. Give me Purdue into the Final Four. And then we have Auburn, Creighton, a 4 versus a 3 seed. That's a great matchup. I think at this point in time, though, I'm going to go with the Blue Jays of Creighton playing great basketball to advance on past Auburn. And then UConn, Iowa State, 1 versus a 3 seed. I do still believe in that Huskies team, so give me UConn for a spot in the Final Four. Houston, Tennessee, 1 versus a 2. I am going to go with the Tennessee Volunteers to advance on to the Final Four. So, last time was a little bit chalky in the Final Four. This time we have some spread out. We have a 1 seed in Purdue, 1 seed in UConn, 2 seed in Tennessee, and then a 3 seed in Creighton. So, for a spot in the national championship game, Purdue, Creighton, I am going to give my love to Zach Edey and Purdue. Again, as I mentioned in the other video, Zach Edey versus Cochran Printer, that's going to be a good matchup if they ever meet in the tournament. I do think I would lean towards Zach Edey and that experience of Purdue. And then UConn, Tennessee, I'm going to go with the Volunteers of Tennessee to advance on to the national championship game. Flip it up from last time. Go with Tennessee. So then Purdue, Tennessee for the national championship. Give me Tennessee out of the SEC conference. I'm telling you, this is a team I was not high on at all at the beginning of this season, even leading up to some points in January. But they've completely reinvigorated my faith in this team. This team's playing great in the SEC, a very good conference. They're playing good defense in a conference that's predominantly offense, which is good. I'm going to go with Tennessee to win the national championship. So anyway, guys, thank you all for watching this video today. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the content. Comment down below your predictions. Anyway, guys, peace out.